Hi everyone and welcome back, and thanks for confirming on my last video that just about all of you understand me. Just to answer some of your comments, I was born in Haiti. My first language is Haitian Creole. From preschool to kindergarten, I learned to speak French in school. I moved to America, began first grade. My ESL, English second language teacher, spoke some French and she taught me English. Once I learned to speak English, I had no use for French as the kids here didn't speak it. When I went to college, I took 2 years of French, and with little to no effort, I got B's in all of my classes. Most of my teachers were from Africa, and they scolded me every chance they got about not speaking French as well as I should and not getting A's since I used to speak it. But mind you, I rarely studied for French. I just showed up, winged it, and still got B's. I managed to hang on to Haitian Creole and speak it fluently. For those of you who don't know, Haitian Creole is basically slang French. Same vocabulary words, it's just not formal whatsoever, with some added words from West African languages and Taino. Because we could not be out here speaking traditional French and think that we were going to outsmart our French colonizers. My husband speaks Portuguese and 80% Spanish, as the languages are very similar. And early on into our relationship, I was very focused on learning Portuguese because I was not going to let them talk about me in my face and I didn't understand. So I speak a decent amount of Portuguese, but I could do a lot better. Languages are just so beautiful, and I wish I could be fluent in at least 4 of them. I still have time to learn and to practice, and I encourage everyone to learn a new language just for fun. But okay, that's enough about me. Let's get into today's topic. Today, we're diving into another government failure, this time out of Minnesota, where a housing aid program meant to help vulnerable people have been shut down because of massive fraud. Yep, the Minnesota Department of Human Services just requested that the federal government pull the plug on its Housing Stabilization Services program, a program that exploded in cost. And you guessed it, it became a hotbed for corruption and abuse. Let's break down what happened, how your tax dollars were wasted, and what it says about Democrat-run welfare systems. Welcome to Nellie Miranda. So let's start with what this program was supposed to be. Back in 2020, Minnesota launched Housing Stabilization Services, or HSS for short, to help low-income and disabled adults find housing. It was supposed to help people with mental health conditions, substance use disorders, or chronic illnesses get into stable housing situations. Sounds noble, right? Well, here's the problem. By 2024, the program's cost had exploded. The state initially projected this program would cost just $2.5 million per year. But by 2024, the tab hit over $100 million. Most of it paid through Medicaid. Now, that's not just a budgeting error. This is what happens when the government opens the money spigot with zero oversight. You get $1 million. You get $1 million. Everyone gets $1 million. But obviously, I didn't get $1 million. So let's take a look at this clip from ABC5.
An unprecedented move. The state of Minnesota is shutting down the Housing Stabilization Services program, which is now tied to millions in suspected fraud.
And tonight, providers in that program are telling us there were warning signs. And their big concern is people could be put out on the street.
The program exploded in size in recent years. But investigators say Medicaid money meant to help vulnerable people find permanent housing is being stolen. The move today by the Department of Human Services to shut down and redesign the program comes 2 weeks after federal authorities searched offices and homes around the metro.
Callan Gray spent hours today reaching out to providers, and she begins our team coverage tonight.
I called more than 50 providers today to find out what this will mean for them and the people they work with. From the conversations I had, it's clear this took people by surprise, and there are still a lot of questions about what happens next.
The state's Housing Stabilization Services program was created to help people with disabilities and housing instability. The sudden news of a shutdown,
I was honestly shocked,
causing concern among providers.
Definitely devastation.
Hannah Albright with Believe Again Home Care says they've housed 83 people through the program.
Housing stabilization is a crucial thing for folks in need.
So what went wrong? In July, the FBI executed search warrants at several service providers in the Twin Cities. Court documents revealed a massive scheme to defraud. The program, including providers billing Medicaid for housing services that were never provided. And in many cases, they targeted vulnerable people living in addiction recovery housing. Easy prey for people looking to line their pockets with taxpayer cash. Take a listen at what two providers had to say about the program shutting down.
Hi, this is Callan Gray. I'm a reporter with Channel 5.
We started at the top of the list, breaking the news to some we talked to. Some told us they didn't have any clients, and others tonight worried what this will mean for people who rely on the program.
They had so much hope that they're going to move, they're going to find a shelter, they're going to have their own place. They're excited about that change that's coming to their lives, and now they're going to get a news that, hey, I'm not going to be able to work with you anymore. It's going to be very shocking to them.
Are there people that are going to be unhoused because of this?
Yes, there's a lot of people who are going to be unhoused.
Coordinator Fardosa Ibrahim says, though, there wasn't enough oversight.
The way HHS was just thrown into the community and expected for everybody to follow the law, it wasn't something that, something was going to happen like this. The fraud was going to happen sooner or later.
But Albright says shutting the program down isn't the answer.
Let's track this better. Let's figure this out so these folks do not have to suffer and they don't have to be without this service when they really need it, because it's not fair to them that certain people have decided to commit fraud.
DHS Commissioner Shireen Gandhi said it herself, the program does not have the necessary controls to stop bad actors and are rooting out the fraud wherever they find it.
It is, in fact, unprecedented. Late this afternoon, DHS's acting commissioner said enough is enough and sent this letter to the Centers for Medicaid and Medicare Services requesting to terminate immediately Minnesota's Housing Stabilization Services program, saying the state does not have the necessary fraud controls to stop bad actors. The move comes in the wake of Kara Levin's investigation that exposed widespread fraud allegations in the program to help the elderly and disabled Minnesotans find housing. Now, for months, we've been telling you about forged signatures, millions upon millions in suspicious billing, and vulnerable people left waiting for housing help that never came. There were federal raids on businesses last month, and just this week, the governor announced dozens of companies suspected of fraud were suspended from billing Medicaid. DHS's temporary commissioner Shireen Gandhi said in a statement today, DHS is rooting out fraud wherever we find it. We cannot allow one more cent of taxpayer money going out the door to providers who claim to serve Minnesotans in need of stable housing while lining their pockets for personal gain.
Fraud has eaten away at Minnesota's public programs due to Democrat leadership. They designed this thing, ignored red flags, and allowed fraud to fester, and now the state is scrambling. Tim Walz weighed in, and so did Republican State Senator Lisa Demuth. Take a listen.
We are digging deeper into that. There's about 1,600 providers in that. Every one of those will be scrutinized.
At the Capitol, Republicans who've been calling for federal audits labeled the decision to terminate the housing program the right decision, but too little, too late. In a statement, Republican Speaker of the House, Lisa Demuth, said, once again, state agencies failed to catch fraud in real time. Instead of stopping it, they're scrambling after the fact, after millions of taxpayer dollars have already been stolen. DHS said they do plan to redesign and relaunch the program after working with the legislature and community partners to come up with a better plan to prevent bad actors from getting in and enhance the care for the vulnerable people who need what this service is supposed to provide.
So after all of this, they want to start over and redesign the whole thing. That's bureaucrat speak for, oops, we lost control. Let's spend more money to fix it. This isn't about saving taxpayer dollars. This is about saving face. This whole mess up, it's a case study in government overreach. Instead of targeted, efficient aid, Democrats created a bloated, fraud-prone bureaucracy. Now, here's what we know. 1, lack of oversight. There were no proper checks in place. 2, no provider vetting. They let bad actors bill Medicaid with virtually no accountability. And 3, taxpayer abuse. Hundreds of millions in Medicaid dollars wasted with minimal results. This is what happens when government gets too big, too fast, and tries to solve complex social issues with simple-minded spending. Fraud hurts everyone, and it drains resources from people actually in need and leave taxpayers footing the bill. And even in the program redesign, there's more fraud to come. This is just another example of failure to manage public programs while wasting your tax dollars in the process. Instead of cutting fraud, they just let it spiral out of control. And now that they're caught, they want to hit reset and act like nothing happened. Accountability matters. Taxpayers deserve better, and those in need deserve real help, not a broken system. If any change is to come, even in the slightest way, there needs to be a full audit. We need to know how deep this fraud goes and who is responsible. We need prosecutions. Anyone caught abusing the system should be indicted. We need tighter eligibility and billing because future programs must have strict controls and require real proof of service. And lastly, legislative oversight. There can be no more rubber stamping bloated spending bills. The Minnesota legislature, especially conservative lawmakers, must step in and ensure that this disaster isn't repeated, especially with their redesign. Now, what do you think? Should Minnesota prosecute the fraudsters? Should the federal government approve termination or demand an audit first? Let me know your thoughts in the comments. But before I let you go, I have to tell you about a massive PPP fraud that took place during COVID. In late July 2025, a federal jury in Atlanta convicted Carl Delano Torjagbo, a 49-year-old from Marietta, Georgia, for orchestrating a massive fraud scheme that exploited the Paycheck Protection Program and falsified tax filings. He used pandemic relief funding and IRS tax refunds as a personal ATM. Take a look at this news clip.
Carl Torjagbo used some of that money to buy this house. Authorities say he cheated the government out of millions of dollars so he could lead a lavish lifestyle.
Torjagbo is a fraudster from Marietta.
During the pandemic, Carl Torjagbo got a $9.6 million Paycheck Protection Program loan. On top of that, he filed fraudulent tax returns that generated a $3.4 million IRS refund.
That's $13 million of money obtained from the federal government through fraud.
He spent that money on this home in East Cobb, land in Northwest Georgia, a number of high-end vehicles, a down payment on a 72-foot yacht, and plastic surgery.
Got himself $15,000 worth of gladiator abs.
Torjagbo was able to get the PPP loan, claiming he had a company, Kremkov Industries.
Kremkov Industries was running a gold mine in Ghana.
The company was fake, and so were the hundreds of employees he said worked for him.
According to Torjagbo, 493 people who were living in the United States but working a mine in Ghana. And he identified by name a number of those employees to the banks. Individuals like Keanu Reeves, Gene Hackman, Oliver Twist, Jon Snow. This was really a notorious fraud.
While it may seem almost comical, the money Torjagbo received was meant to help small businesses that were barely getting by during COVID.
But it's horribly offensive that this was money meant to help struggling Americans, and it was wasted and abused.
Torjagbo will be sentenced in November. The maximum he could receive, 170 years.
This is one of the biggest PPP fraud scams I've ever heard of. He should be prosecuted to the fullest extent of the law, and the government should be looking into all PPP recipients. It doesn't matter if you only got $10,000. If you were not operating a legit business, it means you stole taxpayer money and you should be prosecuted, period. Now, do you think the federal government did enough to prevent fraud in the PPP loan program, or was it doomed to be abused from the start? Let me know your thoughts in the comments, and as always, if honest commentary brings you value, please make sure you like and subscribe, as it really helps support the channel, and tap the notification bell so you never miss an update. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.